What we're going to be doing for the next hour or so is developing a public space program. It's where you take all these great words and you turn them into pictures and circles and dots and bubble diagrams and arrows, however you design. And we don't know if we have people who can, hopefully in each group we'll have someone who's really comfortable with markers. We have a lot of artists in the room that we're hoping can help sort of articulate and draw what your co-table mates are talking about, which is another really incredible skill to be able to translate sort of words into images. We have tracing paper, so when we put you in your sites with your big maps, we can have tracing paper so that you can roll it out, make designs, tear it up, roll out another sheet, keep the sheet, put the sheet on the wall if you like it, so that we get to reuse these big wonderful aerials over and over again. Tracing papers are very important art material to have, increasingly difficult to find. So this is kind of what we're going to be doing. So I will be just showing you from other projects we've done what the plan is. So there's kind of two parts to this. There's a verbal part and a visual part. I'm very verbal. I'm not a designer, I'm not an artist. He is very visual. So we think that in each group there's probably verbal people that like to write and visual people that like to draw. So we're going to have you first come up with a brief vision statement for your site. And I'll show you some examples of that. You can name your site, you can rename your site, and then 5 goals that you'd like your space to achieve. So there'll be a couple of people who are like scribbling ideas about what is, and you can have a conversation obviously with all of you, what is the vision and what are the goals we want this place to achieve. And then the more visual people will be taking the lead on identifying the 10 places in your site, because yesterday we did the power of 10 for Isla Vista. We didn't really have you do the 10 sites in your place, so that's going to bring that exercise over from yesterday. And then you do like a little bubble diagram for each of those. Make a list of all the uses, activities, and programs that could happen in each of your 10 sites, and then all the physical features or amenities or design changes that you would need to support those uses. So at the end, you're going to have a lot of bubbles and a lot of words, and we'll try to keep it so that we'll give you time if you wanted to kind of clean it up a little bit. We'd like you to present to each other. So if it's kind of a little bit all over the place, we'll give you obviously time to kind of come up with a little bit more of a finished looking, at least legible sort of plan. So here's a project that we did with George Mason University. Now, George Mason University is a state-run university in Arlington, Virginia, in the county of Arlington, Virginia. And we were brought in, there's wonderful county commissioners in Arlington County, Virginia. Very forward-thinking, very smart, growth-oriented, very just in keeping with our sort of perspective of how you create wonderful, walkable cities. And George Mason University was like creating a new plaza on their campus, and which is within Arlington County, and was not talking to the county at all. It's not talking to the residents, the neighbors, the community, the county. So County Commissioner Christopher Zimmerman came and said, we are at loggerheads, because they're saying we're a state university. You know, we can do whatever the hell we want, we don't have to talk to you. Arlington County is also known as the People's Republic of Arlington. These people are fierce community activists. They're a very tight-knit community. They're like, that does not work. So there was this wonderful standoff, and they invited us to kind of bring everyone together and come up with ways for them to work together. They didn't do very good outreach. The university is mostly commuters. I will get on with this in a minute. Mostly commuters. It's a law school, so people are working all day. They come at night, 5 o'clock. They eat their lunch or their dinner in the parking lot, and they go home. So this was sort of our idea of creating a great plaza. And this idea for the plaza that evolved was to create a place for the community to come in and for the university to welcome the people of Arlington into their campus. So this kind of overhead doesn't really help you very much. All right, so this was the sunken parking lot that was going to become an at-grade plaza. So this was the site. And so we were looking at a completely blank site. We also can do a similar exercise looking at a brownfield, looking at a green field, looking at a parking lot, a vacant lot. It's like a little bit different. The principles are the same. So we're like, okay, this is a parking lot that's going to become a community plaza. So does this look familiar? We had at work, this was a number of years ago, we had our workshop, we had university faculty, we had administrators, we had people from the county, we had people from arts organizations, civic institutions, coming together around the table. You know, they're all in suits and ties, and they look a little tense.
But you look just a little bit.
Yes. Okay, they look a little tense. So we did this. This is what sort of the architect's rendering of what the plaza would be. So over on the right here, just to orient you real quick. This is the new law library that was designed and built by the architects without ever consulting the law librarians. And I said, how do you like your fancy schmancy new really multi-million-dollar library? And they're like, well, you know, we don't have enough storage. They put the staff bathrooms on another floor. You know, we can't see out. They didn't really like it. And I said, so, you know, were you? No, they were not consulted. So that was a booster. So that's that. This was a new admin building they were building with more offices and offices for staff and faculty who also had not been in the invited in. And so they go, so how do you like, well, my office is way too small. Like, they didn't give us enough room. We don't have windows. So the staff was not really happy about the new design for their building. So the university was really like not even talking to its own people. And this is sort of a performing arts center. So there was a lot of tension. There was a lot of people that were very dissatisfied with things were being done to them. So the ideas that the group came out with this is sort of like the vision for that plaza. Sense of place and identity for George Mason and the community, integrate the campus into the Virginia Square neighborhood, become a gathering spot that fosters interaction between academic departments and students, and a venue for education, culture, entertainment, displays, and social life. So that was kind of the vision for that plaza. And then activities that they thought could happen there. And again, it is very much, you know, it's law, it's education, so outdoor reading, seating, lectures, performances, music, barbecues, art shows, exhibits. Pretty, you know, not heavy recreation, in other words. Kind of. And then remember, we're building a plaza over a parking lot, which means there's parking underneath, which means you've got to be very careful where you put the trees, because you can only put them when there's a structure underneath, and they can't be too heavy, and you know, they'll send that there's drainage if you've got grass and it leaks down to the cars and it falls concrete. Like, it's really, it's not difficult, but there's a whole other layer of thinking when you're doing landscaping over a parking garage. Key amenities, seating, chairs, art, umbrellas, trees. You know, it's a lot of the things that you've been talking about, because it's a lot of the things that really are just kind of the common sense, basic palette of amenities and features that we all want and need as Homo sapiens. And it's not, you know, we're not talking about, you know, just really marble terrazzo everywhere. These are really basic, key basic elements, as Holly White says, you know, great place to make basic things, and they're in front of our face if we only look. So so this was kind of the first kind of conceptual planning that we did. So we had our ideas, we had our little map of plan of what we thought, you know, the basic footprint of the plaza was going to be. And the first thing we did was we came up with zones. So so this is where it gets very creative. So what do you do next to a library? Well, what is a library? It's a place of study and reflection. Do you put the band there? Do you have the ultimate frisbee there? No, that's the quiet zone. So what happens is that the edge uses inform the layout of activities on the space. This was the entrance zone, very easy. You're going to all have entrance zones to think about. Because this was a performing arts space and there was an opportunity for a gallery, this became the art zone. So this is this very big picture dividing this plaza up into sort of thematic areas. I can't read it, blah, blah, blah. And then these were more like outdoor seating and sort of relaxation and game zone. So that was just kind of If that helps you in your process, get your thoughts together, you don't have to do this. Let me just, and then the outcome was, so this is the daily use proposed. And it was outdoor seating, outdoor chairs. We put the, trees where they would be underneath pylons. There was a cafe in here, so outdoor dining. So this is, again, another way of kind of presenting your ideas. If you want to do little umbrellas, little, game things, trees, just a way of kind of some visual tools for just. Then we had a set reception. So the idea was that the space could be fully open, or the university could close it off with a nice little velvet rope if they were having a reception. So this is what it would look like if there was a reception. So even if they're having some sort of mock trial, it doesn't mean like they close everything off. It could still be open. And then an idea for a small event and how you would kind of move things around. A large event, like they were thinking where you could have additional seating. They're thinking of having graduation here. And this is sort of, and then this was like the ADA access to make sure that there was opportunity for universal accessibility, because there was some grade changes up the ramp. So it's just a very easy way. There's a lot of little, we do a lot of little word notations over here. As you saw with the Harvard, we put pictures from other places around the edges, so it doesn't have to go into CAD. In fact, we like doing hand drawings or doing sketches with photographs around it, because it shows that the thinking is still in process. If you are given a CAD drawing and you know that some poor junior architect spent the last 47 hours of their life without sleep doing this, you're like, well, obviously the plan is done. Why are they asking me? They've already made up their mind. It's hardline drawings. So we are really kind of against hardline drawings until at the very end, because we want it to look flexible and attractive, but like it's still in process, so that there's things you can change. So Discovery Green, this was a very exciting project we did in Houston, Texas, about 4 years ago. And the challenge here, City of Houston, they literally roll up the sidewalks at 5 o'clock. Everyone gets on the 8, Route 8, and they're out. Beltway, home. They wanted to attract residents to Houston. They wanted to create a real 24-hour city. So in most communities, the first thing you would do is you would find a developer who wanted to build luxury condos. You would beg them to come, and you would give them all kinds of concessions, and you would waive the development impact fees, and you'd let them build more, and they're like, we're going to lose our shirts, blah, 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 and the city just bends over backwards, and please, let's get a developer to build luxury condos so people will start to live here. They did the absolute opposite. They turned it upside down. This was the city, these were some corporations, foundations, a lot of funders, and the city that said, no, we're going to create a great kick-butt destination first. We're going to create a reason for people to come and stay in downtown Houston, and then they're going to want to live here. We said, great, you're crazy. Okay. So this was our site. This is about 7 acres. The convention center is here. There's an alley of trees, parking, hotel, highway, soccer. Now there's a soccer stadium. This was it. We're like, okay, so we've got this, right? No, we're taking it all. We're getting the city to give us the street. We're taking all the parking. The parking went below. We replaced it underneath the new park. And this became a big enough site. You cannot change a city with a little parcel. Whole thing, always, it's like the Fort Myers Library, whole thing, take everything. That was our, and so then we did our process with community and a lot of stakeholders, and came up with this very rough model diagram. So this is kind of what we're hoping you all can come up. So here's the convention center. So we said, and here's the lawn that's there in the Oak Alley. Well, we came up with sort of like ideas, and everyone had, we want restaurants. We want a restaurant. Okay, well, where should we put the restaurant? Well, if we have a hotel over here, it might be possible that the restaurant could actually expand across the street. Or this is hardscape, it's hardscape parking. that would be a good place for a restaurant because it's already kind of got the surface that they would need. The pond did not exist. So the promenade, so the alley of live oak trees cannot ever touch a live oak tree. It was a beautiful promenade. And so we said, well, that's just, we're going to do like, you know, that's where the farmer's market is going to go. That's where those community events are going to go so people can go under the trees. So at this point, we're imagining the users of the space, how they would engage with the ideas that they came up with. What would be that experience? So on the ground, you know, putting yourself in someone else's shoes. And if we want to have people living here, people have dogs, people have pets, people have children. So here's the dog run and picnic area, Mullen Hill. So this was very early sketching, very early on. We've had a little bit more specific after that with some of the specific sort of amenity destinations in those sites. So the beer garden, the play area, children's performance, water features, a future restaurant, park building. And we kind of started putting these, that's like number 6 is focal point number 5, future restaurant. We started kind of locating these particular destination activities within these sites. So the beer garden would be near the tree house, you know, just children's performance near the garden. So we started kind of laying these things out. And then we did a fun rendering of what that whole thing could look like, the promenade, the restaurants, the pond. This is the convention center, a great lawn. And then the city hired George Hargrave's associates to do the landscape plan. And a few things happened. Well, the first thing they did was that they made this a really hard-edged, right-angled pond, and we're like, I've never seen a water body that has hard right angles. You know, most water in Kirby, so we kind of encouraged them to sort of soften this. They wanted this multi-use amphitheater slope, which we just said they wanted a change of grade because it's Houston and it's flat, so they're going to create a slope. Because they create slopes and plinths and berms, and that is their, you know, that's their trope, and that's what they do. So we couldn't get them to give up this slope, but you don't create a berm just to create a berm because the landscape is flat. It's like, why is there a berm? But anyway, we let that go. But this is where we came back in because the city of Houston was like, we're not really sure if they got everything that they could. So there was some back and forth. Needless to say, Hargrave Associates will never work with us again. That's kind of okay. It's not, we have other people to work with. So here we are before, and this is it after. They kind of softened.
But the kayak still gets stuck there.
They do. I'll show you. Yeah, I have a picture of a kayak. It's
I have a lot of love and hate for Houston because I went to school at Texas A&M. This was our closest metropolis, and it's great. I love this park, by the way. Their programming, they are excellent, but kayaks get stuck there.
So what you see here, and all of a sudden, so again, there was just the park. What is this? Construction of a new building. So there's the restaurant with the wonderful sort of art balloon. The library has a little library here in the park. There's a restaurant on the lake over here where you can sit in or sit out. This is a kayak about to get stuck, but it's amazing. They're doing kayaking. It's like 6 inches of water. I don't think they can teach you how to flip over and right yourself. I don't think it's deep enough for that. But this was like, what else should we do here? It's like kayaking. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, that's an insane idea. Well, they're doing kayaking. They have ice skating. Houston, like what, 75 degrees is cold. They do ice skating in Pershing Square in LA. You can do temporary ice skating. They'll do ice skating in one side and people want a splash fountain on the other side. Path, a dog run. Here's our dog run, and here's our little, you know, wonderful artists. A lot of art exhibit. Like my friend Jonathan Bless runs the Houston Arts Council, and so they had a lot of fabulous public artists come in. They did a lot of wonderful interactive work here. A lot of children's play, like people. So this like, but it's downtown Houston. People drive 45 minutes to come here with their dog and their kids, all from outside the Beltway, to come to this amazing.
And the other thing to notice about the playground is that there are a lot of ways to create a playground without actually getting the equipment, and your costs could be kept to approximately that. the thing is that it is a little bit more challenging when you're designing a playground and creating different materials because you have to comply with all the rules and regulations. The soft surfaces and soft to touch, no corners and all that. But it's a creative process, and I see that a lot of creative people in the room. So getting the modular is not the only way to go.
Right, you don't have to do an off the rack. You can do this little. And this also attracts kids of different ages and skill levels. It's really hard to design a playground that a 4-year-old will be able to manage, and an 11-year-old will be interested in, or a 10-year-old will actually be interested in. Performance and stage and music and concerts. They do a lot of programming. They have a farmer's market. They have, what is this, free bike repair
They
and
have a
lessons.
flea market and bike lessons and fix-it shops.
And this is one of the public art projects, but what I loved is that this family came, we were there around Christmas time one year, and this family had come to take their Christmas photo here. And this was going to be their Christmas photo, was their little daughter all dressed up, throwing little Christmas balls on the ground. They were going to send that to all of their friends and relatives. So, the best public spaces are self-programming, where people come with their own props and their own toys, but they know they want to be in that space, and they actually create their own afternoon of entertainment. Or they come for one thing and stay for 6. So they just spontaneously respond to the context, which gives them the flexibility to do what they want to do.
Cynthia, can you stay on that slide for a second?
Yes.
So another thing about this is, this is where the exit staircase from the parking underneath comes out. So this is a different way of looking at just a stairwell because they've made it really nice and interactive. But another thing to think about, you cannot put a playful element in a public space and stop people from playing with it. And how I mean that is, so all these blocks, they're like, some of them are come out, some of them are inside. The surface is not plain. So kids use it as a climbing wall. And now what's happened is if you go there now, they've put a fence around it and said no climbing, please. So it's just one of those things that if there's a playful interactive feature, round the corners, round the edges, do what you gotta do, but you gotta let people play with it. And if you don't, then it can't have a negative connotation to it. Otherwise, just keep the surface flat at the bottom and do the zigzag up top, whatever. Just
they're teaching something about that just by how they're using it.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly.
Follow that. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm sure that the person when they put it here, they didn't see that as a problem, or they didn't even see that as a potential use, but it is. So.
I think some risk manager walked up one day and
Yeah.
got all freaked out.
Or maybe somebody did tip and fall over. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Or they just didn't grease the risk manager.
Yeah, that's a good point. So this is the LA, which is also, they use it for art installations as well as the farmer's market. You show this floating lotus thing, so they do art events in the 6-inch water feature. And they've gotten other sponsors. They do Tango, Dog Days. They have Southwest Airlines doing a little happy hour, yoga. They actually did too much programming because they were really creating a destination out of nothing. And they were like, how do we get people here? We've got to do yoga 37 times a week. So they started to do it, and it was over-programmed. And then they started sort of learning. This is management, learning how much was too much and what were the programs that were successful.
They dialed back.
And yoga at 2 o'clock in the afternoon is not nearly as good as yoga at 6:30 in the morning, when it's cooler. So they dialed back on it a little bit more. And I don't have the slides here, but that was 5 or 6 years ago. We came back to Discovery Green about a year ago. We had a meeting with them. They go, okay, we're ready for the next 5 years. They've got $5 billion of investment going on around this park. It's office buildings, it's condos, it's hotels. They've got supermarkets, which they never had downtown before and ever. And what they had done is they had sort of focused on one part of the park, the convention center, and the back 40, was kind of where they had storage and deliveries. But now they had, Class A office building looking down on their dumpsters, and we're like, they have to now go back and plan the back part and program the back part of the park. Because they said, we can't do all of this. We'll just focus over here and it'll take 30 years and then no, it's been 5 years and they're like, we can't believe what's happening. So it's generated a tremendous amount of benefit for the city. Then there's the highway. There's now, as a result of this, I'm not kidding, there's a soccer stadium that went in. There's been some other sort of sports, and now the Greater West End, which is a Latino neighborhood on the other side of the soccer stadium, which has like the best tacos in the world, is now getting some of the city's attention in terms of making a nice boulevard out of their main street, and it's also connecting to the light rail. So all of a sudden, all of these things have come together, and the light rail on its own wouldn't have done it, the soccer stadium wouldn't have done it, but this amazing, attractive public space brings it all together, and now there's thousands of people living in downtown Houston. So you create the draw, the reason for people to come. And they will come, and then they will want to live there, they'll want to stay there on their trip, and they'll want to work in a building nearby. I mean, that's a very big scale, but
yeah, and another thing I would like to say is also, it's related to our work. In addition to Discovery Green, there's Market Square Park, which is a very small single Houston block park, which also had similar problems. It was too much of a design statement beforehand. It was very sculpture in a way, the way it was thought out, but now it's all flattened out, it's programmed, there's things happening. So there's this, slowly you see in a city like Houston, you see the power of 10 popping up, and then people want to live, people want to move back to Houston downtown. That's a major change. So it's like, these pockets of life, and as you all know, there's a bayou, Buffalo Bayou Park. That's also, they've reclaimed the bayou, they've started cleaning the water, but it's a major linear draw. So there's these, you could really do Power of 10 on Houston downtown now, which is fascinating. You can think of that 5 years ago.
And you've kind of been involved in a lot of it. Here's another little Houston project. This is a little park, 3-acre park in a neighborhood, Upper Kirby. And this was the Civic Center, the Vision. It has residential on both sides. Kind of a newly discovered neighborhood. I mean, there's people been living there for generations, but more folks are kind of moving in because they like the trees and it's affordable and it's accessible. So they're getting a lot of newcomers coming in. So again, featuring our assets, become a lively gathering community space, reflecting our neighborhood. Just stay who we are, reflect what we have. These are the goals. We want a sense of identity, connecting services and uses together because they were not very well linked up, reach out like an octopus, and celebrate the cultures and traditions of the community, so very sort of inclusive. So their Power of 10, they came up with their plan and they had their 10 little sites, and my map didn't really print very well, but this was again sort of a bubble diagram that we came up with. This was their Civic Center, the gallery, their gateways. They had a lovely community garden. They wanted to put games over here, farmers market. My visuals are not terrific. Sorry about that. So does that give you enough guidance without overburdening you with what to do? People have questions? Just kind of whatever your group wants to, if you want to do this whole thing as interpretive dance, you are, more than welcome, like whatever, however you want to express your ideas.
Yeah, and we have the top 4.
And we have the top 4.
Yeah, I just tallied the results, and based on preference, we are looking at Lower Loop, Upper Loop, Estero Park, and Del Playa.